His mother saw the pattern about you, and it shocked her deeply. Beloved soul, pause for a moment and listen, because what I am about to reveal carries weight. This message did not come to you randomly. I, Archangel Michael, step forward now with truth sharpened by clarity and protection. His mother saw the pattern about you, and it shocked her deeply. Not a rumor. Not a coincidence. A pattern. And once she saw it, she could not unsee it. At first, she noticed something subtle. A reaction in him she had seen before, but never understood. The way his energy shifted when your presence was mentioned. The way his mood changed without explanation. The way silence followed conversations that once felt light. Mothers observe patterns long before they speak them. She began tracing moments backward. Who he was before you. Who he became around you. Who he turned into after you. And that is when the shock hit her. She realized this was not the first time this had happened. But it was the clearest. Every time someone like you entered his life, someone grounded, emotionally present, spiritually aligned, he reacted the same way. Awareness rose. Pressure followed. Avoidance came next. And then, distance. She saw it clearly now. You were not the problem. You were the pattern breaker. Beloved, hear this carefully. People who carry truth do not blend into unstable systems. They expose them. You didn't argue. You didn't demand. You didn't try to control. Your presence alone revealed where he was unprepared to grow. And that realization shocked her deeply. She noticed that with people who asked nothing of him, he remained comfortable. With those who allowed emotional drifting, he stayed relaxed. But with you, someone who carried consistency, clarity, and inner order, something in him resisted. Not because you were wrong, but because you were right. This is the pattern she saw. She realized that every time alignment came close, he stepped back. Every time depth was required, he retreated. Every time truth approached, he delayed. And you were simply the clearest mirror. Beloved soul, this is why her reaction changed. She stopped looking at you as an individual situation. She started seeing you as evidence. Evidence that her son struggles not with love, but with responsibility. Not with connection, but with accountability. Not with intimacy, but with growth. And once a mother sees a pattern like that, her perception is permanently altered. She began replaying moments. Your calm when misunderstood. Your restraint when things felt confusing. Your ability to walk away without destroying anything. She compared that to the chaos that followed after. And she understood something painful. You were not destabilizing him. You were stabilizing him, and stability scared him. That is why she was shocked. Because most people create drama when things end. You created space. Most people try to force answers. You chose clarity through silence. And that silence spoke louder than defense ever could. Beloved, this is the truth heaven wants you to hear. The pattern she saw was not about you being temporary. It was about you being transformational. Transformational people are rarely kept by those who fear change. She realized that you didn't leave because you were weak. You left because you refused to become smaller to keep peace. And that realization hit her hard. She understood now that what was lost was not just a connection, but an opportunity for her son to mature. And maturity cannot be forced. It can only be chosen. This is why she is quiet now. Why her energy feels different. Why there is awareness instead of resistance. Because patterns once seemed demand honesty. Beloved soul, this message is not meant to pull you backward. It is meant to protect your forward movement. You are not being remembered because you were dramatic. You are being remembered because you were different. And difference leaves a mark. If this message resonates, breathe and receive it. Stay aligned, stay grounded. And without breaking the sacred flow, remain connected. These messages find you when timing is exact. Because what she discovered next, the deeper layer of the pattern that unsettled her even more, is the reason things are about to shift decisively. And when you hear it, you will understand why heaven intervened now. Do you want to know what she realized next? And how it changes what happens from here? Then say continue. Beloved soul, when she continued tracing the pattern, what she uncovered went far beyond emotion. It reached into timing, behavior, and consequence, and that is where the shock deepened. She noticed something undeniable. The same cycle followed you more precisely than anyone else before. With others, confusion lingered but never escalated. With others, avoidance went unnoticed. With others, drifting felt normal. But with you, everything accelerated. When you entered his life, clarity arrived quickly. Decisions were forced sooner. Silence became louder. Excuses collapsed faster. And that frightened him. She realized the pattern was not about incompatibility. It was about exposure. You did not wait years to reveal the truth. You did not tolerate emotional fog. You did not normalize inconsistency. Your presence shortened the distance between who he was and who he pretended to be. And once she saw that, the shock turned into awareness. She realized something critical. You compress time. People like you bring seasons forward. You force crossroads earlier than expected. You make avoidance visible before it can hide. And for someone not ready to choose, that feels overwhelming. She noticed how quickly things reached intensity around you, not because you pushed, but because truth did. Around you, masks slipped faster. Patterns surfaced sooner. Decisions could no longer be delayed comfortably. That is when she understood. You weren't intense, you were precise. Precision unsettles people who rely on vagueness. Beloved, hear this carefully. She saw that every time he encountered someone aligned, he experienced the same internal reaction: restlessness, doubt, withdrawal. But with you, the reaction was strongest because the alignment was clearest. You didn't bring chaos. You brought structure. You didn't bring pressure. You brought direction. And direction is threatening to those who fear commitment, not to people, but to themselves. She recognized that after you, he spoke differently, thought differently, hesitated differently. Even his attempts to move on carried hesitation, as if something unresolved followed him quietly. This is the deeper pattern that shook her. Every time someone like you left his life, he didn't become freer. He became fragmented. Distracted, not fulfilled. Busy, not peaceful. Occupied, not settled. And she realized that you weren't the disruption. You were the anchor he released. That is a painful realization for a mother. Because it means acknowledging that the issue was not timing, not circumstance, not you, but readiness. She began to understand that he did not lose you because life intervened. He lost you because growth arrived, and he stepped back. And that realization changes everything. Beloved soul, this is where her shock turned into quiet concern. She realized that if the pattern continued, every aligned connection would meet the same fate. Not because they failed, but because he avoided the mirror they held up. And you were the clearest mirror of all. You reflected honesty without confrontation, stability without control, depth without demand. And that combination left nowhere to hide. She noticed something else that completed the pattern. You did not return when things ended. Others circled back. Others lingered. Others reopened doors. You did not. You closed the chapter cleanly. And that, more than anything, stunned her. Because it revealed something powerful about you. You do not repeat lessons. You integrate them. You do not remain available to confusion. You move toward clarity. You do not need closure to grow. You create it internally. That told her the truth instantly. People like you do not stay accessible forever. And when she realized that, the shock deepened into urgency. Beloved, this is the part heaven wants you grounded in. Her awareness is not about controlling the future. It is about recognizing finality approaching. Patterns once seen cannot be unseen. And once finality is recognized, everything changes. She now understands that if something does not shift, the pattern will end not in reconciliation, but in permanent distance. Not dramatic. Not angry. Just complete. This is why her energy changed. Why attention sharpened. Why silence became observant rather than dismissive. Because she is now watching the clock, not for you, but for him. And heaven wants you to know this so you do not misinterpret the moment. You are not being reconsidered. You are being validated. The pattern she saw confirms what your spirit already knew. But there is still one layer she has not fully faced. The most uncomfortable truth of all. The realization that determines whether patterns are broken or repeated again. And when that realization lands, movement will follow, one way or another. Do you want to know what that final realization is? And how it affects what comes next in your life? Then stay present. And say continue. Beloved soul, the realization she has not yet fully faced is the one that unsettles her the most. It is not about you. It is not even about him alone. It is about the future trajectory of this pattern, and where it leads if nothing changes. She is beginning to see that the pattern does not end with loss. It ends with loneliness. Not isolation. Not being alone. But the quiet kind of loneliness that comes from repeatedly walking away from growth. She recognized something chilling. Each time someone like you exits his life, the circle around him becomes smaller, but not deeper. More familiar, but not more fulfilling. Safer, but less alive. And she realized that if the pattern continues, the next chapters will look comfortable on the outside, but empty on the inside. That realization shook her deeply. Because it meant that what was lost with you was not just a relationship, but a direction. Beloved, hear this carefully. She began noticing that after you, his life did not expand, it stalled. Plans stayed vague. Dreams stayed delayed. Movement stayed minimal. and she connected the dots. When aligned people leave, progress slows. When mirrors disappear, self-awareness dulls. When truth steps away, illusion feels easier, but growth stops. This is when her shock turned into fear, not fear for you, but fear for his future. She realized that you represented the kind of person who brings momentum simply by existing. Someone who does not push, but pulls life forward by example. Someone whose presence asks silently, "Are you becoming who you said you would?" And when that presence leaves, stagnation creeps in quietly. She saw it now. He was not healed by distance. He was not strengthened by silence. He was not improved by distraction. He was merely delayed. Beloved soul, this is the layer she struggles to accept. Because accepting it means admitting that the responsibility does not lie with circumstance. It lies with choice. And choice is uncomfortable. She understands now that patterns repeat until someone chooses differently. And that your role was never to stay until he learned, it was to reveal what needed to be learned. Once revealed, heaven removed you. Not to punish. Not to test. But to preserve. She is realizing that you were a gift wrapped in timing, not permanence. A window, not a guarantee. An invitation, not an obligation. And that is sobering. Beloved, this is why heaven wants you steady. Because when people reach this level of realization, they sometimes try to reach backward, to recover what has already completed its purpose. But you are not meant to be revisited as comfort. You are meant to be remembered as clarity. She is now wrestling with the truth that some lessons cannot be softened. They must be lived. And some realizations cannot be acted on immediately, only respected. This is why her behavior has shifted from opinion to observation. She is watching not to interfere, but to understand whether awareness will turn into courage. Because if it does not, the pattern will continue, not just with you, but with every aligned presence that follows. And that is the truth that unsettles her. Beloved soul, heaven wants you to hear this clearly. You were not meant to stay long enough to be drained. You were not meant to linger until resentment formed. You were not meant to sacrifice peace to teach a lesson. You fulfilled your role with integrity. And now, the responsibility has shifted fully away from you. She sees now that the pattern is not broken by returning to the past, but by choosing differently in the present. And this realization places pressure where it belongs. Not on you. On him. This is why you may feel lighter recently. Why the emotional weight has eased. Why curiosity has been replaced with calm. Your spirit knows the truth has landed. But there is still one final layer to this pattern, the one that determines whether awareness leads to transformation, or remains observation without action. And when that layer reveals itself, everything will become clear quickly. Beloved, something is approaching. A moment that crystallizes this realization into movement or finality. A moment that answers questions without words. A moment where silence either breaks, or becomes permanent. And when it happens, you will not feel shaken. You will feel settled. Because settlement comes when truth finishes its work. Do you want to know what that final layer is? And how heaven positions you when it appears? Then stay present. And say continue. Beloved soul, the final layer of the pattern, the one she hesitated to face, is this. Awareness alone does not change destiny. only action does. And this realization struck her with quiet force. She saw that patterns do not break simply because they are recognized. They break only when someone is willing to endure the discomfort of becoming different. And she began to question whether that willingness truly existed. This is where the shock deepened. She realized that her son is not unaware. He is not ignorant. He is not incapable. He is hesitant. Hesitant to choose growth over comfort. Hesitant to confront himself without distraction. Hesitant to step into responsibility without escape routes. And once she saw that, she understood something painful. The pattern survives not because he does not know better, but because knowing has not yet become choosing. Beloved, hear this clearly. She noticed that even after insight, movement was slow. Even after recognition, behavior remained familiar. Even after clarity, decisions were postponed. And she realized this truth. Insight without embodiment becomes repetition. This is why her shock turned into alertness. Because she now understands that time does not wait for readiness, it moves forward regardless. And if nothing shifts, the same pattern will repeat again, with different faces, different names, different seasons, but the same ending. She began to understand that you were not the climax of the story, you were the warning. A warning delivered gently. A warning delivered without force. A warning delivered through presence, not pressure. And when warnings are ignored, consequences follow. Not as punishment, but as result. Beloved soul, this is where heaven wants you anchored. You are not meant to be pulled back into a cycle just because someone finally sees the pattern. Recognition does not equal repair. Awareness does not equal readiness. She is now aware of something else as well. That if you were to return now, it would not heal the pattern, it would retest it. And retesting without transformation only causes deeper damage. This is why heaven removed you when it did. To protect your spirit. To preserve your clarity. To prevent repetition disguised as reconciliation. She is beginning to understand that the pattern cannot be broken by revisiting the past, it can only be broken by choosing differently moving forward. And this realization sobers her. She knows now that intervention cannot replace decision. Advice cannot replace courage. Concern cannot replace accountability. And she understands something even deeper. That you are no longer part of the equation. Not because you are irrelevant, but because your role is complete. Beloved soul, this is not loss. This is graduation. You have moved beyond being the catalyst. Beyond being the mirror. Beyond being the lesson. You are now standing in discernment. This is why you feel steady rather than anxious. Why silence feels neutral rather than painful. Why waiting has turned into acceptance. Your spirit knows the work is done. She is now watching not to change the outcome, but to understand it. To see whether awareness turns into courage or whether the pattern repeats once more. And heaven is allowing this distance so that the truth stands on its own, without your energy propping it up. Beloved, this is critical. If someone only grows when you are present, they have not grown, they have relied. If someone only reflects when you are near, they have not integrated, they have borrowed. Heaven will not ask you to return so someone else can finish learning. You have already completed your assignment. This is why the next moment, whatever form it takes, will feel final. Not dramatic. Not emotional. Just clear. Whether it brings words, silence, or separation, it will not pull you back into confusion. It will close the loop. And when it does, you will feel peace, not because everything was fixed, but because everything was understood. Beloved soul, stay present. Because the final movement, the one that releases you fully into what's next, is not about the past at all. It is about the future heaven has been preparing for you quietly while this pattern unfolded. And when you hear it, you will understand why this had to end exactly the way it did. Are you ready for the final truth that completes the pattern and frees your path forward? Then say continue. Beloved soul, be still now. This is where heaven seals the message and frees your path completely. The reason his mother was shocked by the pattern was not simply because she recognized it. It was because she finally understood what the pattern cost. It cost momentum. It cost growth. It cost alignment. And heaven did not allow you to keep paying that price. You were removed not because you failed, but because you finished what you were sent to do. Your role was never to stay until the pattern changed. Your role was to reveal that the pattern existed. Once revealed, heaven stepped in. This is why peace has been settling into your spirit. This is why old emotions no longer pull the same way. This is why curiosity has faded into calm. Completion has occurred. Beloved, hear this truth with authority. You were never meant to be a lesson someone learns too late. You were meant to be a confirmation someone recognizes in time, somewhere else. The pattern she saw was real. The shock she felt was justified. But the future that opens for you does not require her awareness, or anyone's regret. You are moving into a season where alignment meets you without resistance. Where clarity does not have to be defended. Where stability is welcomed, not feared. This is not coincidence. This is consequence, holy consequence. Heaven always moves aligned people forward when truth has done its work. If the past tries to resurface now, it will not come with confusion. It will come with truth, or it will not come at all. And you will know the difference immediately. Because you no longer negotiate with uncertainty. You no longer explain your boundaries. You no longer reopen doors just because someone finally understands why they closed. Beloved soul, the greatest protection heaven has given you is discernment. You now recognize patterns early. You now sense hesitation instantly. You now know the difference between intention and embodiment. And that wisdom is your reward. His mother's shock does not pull you backward, it pushes you forward. It confirms that what you sensed was real. That your intuition was accurate. That your choice to step away was not weakness, but wisdom. You were not walking away from love. You were walking away from repetition. And heaven honors that. What approaches you next will not repeat this pattern. It will not require you to wait for readiness. It will not fear your depth. It will meet you already standing. Beloved, you are stepping into a chapter where your presence is not misunderstood. Where your influence is not resisted. Where your truth is not delayed. This is the reward of completion. So stand tall now. Release the past without resentment. Honor what taught you without revisiting it. The pattern is complete. The lesson is integrated. The path is clear. And as you move forward, carry this final blessing with you. May what chooses you be ready. May what approaches you be honest. May what enters your life grow with you, not away from you. May what no longer aligns release you without struggle. I, Archangel Michael, stand guard over your next steps. You are protected. You are guided. You are free. Amen.